Once again, thank you for spending your Saturday learning about magical internet money. You're here to learn, so we appreciate that. I guess we'll just start with introductions. Me and Christian from Blockaday, as you can tell, are leading this workshop. So a little bit about myself. My name is Evan, and I'm from UBC, getting my Bachelor of Commerce. And I guess Christian, we can both just share how we got into crypto. So I kind of got in a pretty lame way. I just found like this shit coin on Reddit, and it said, "Oh yeah, you'll 10x your money," and then like I didn't 10x my money. But then like I just started trading, and in the process of trading, got into the technology, which is a fun part, and that's me. Christian, would you like to share?
Sure. So hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christian, co-founder of Blockaday, which is a blockchain education company. I am a UBC alum. I graduated back in December last year, studied finance and business. And in terms of how I got into crypto, this was back in, I guess, late 2017. I had a friend show me all the money that he was making, and I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty exciting. And then I put a bunch of money in and ended up losing most of it. But I did not get discouraged, and I did believe in the technology behind it. So I stuck in there, and it's been a pretty sweet ride for the past 4 years. One of my favorite things in the whole world is this crypto stuff. That's why I'm starting a company to teach people about it, because that's like my passion.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Yeah. So just a disclaimer. This is a pretty cliche disclaimer. It's not financial advice. Like, don't take any of this as information for your own investments. Do your research as always. So for the objectives of this workshop, first to explain that, this isn't like some highly technical developers workshop. This is to kind of provide a broad overview of what smart contracts and blockchain is and how they relate to each other. And by the end, you should be able to explain, again, very broad overview of what a smart contract is, the use cases, and what it looks like. So first of all, I think we're all familiar with Bitcoin. It, on a layman's level, is a massive chain of data. And these chains are put together through blocks, and they're continuously growing. They're added to each other, just like how you see in a diagram there, by mining, which is essentially solving a math problem. And when you solve a math problem, you receive an award. These are also linked together by cryptography, which is a communication technique that allows for senders and the intended recipient of a message to view its content. Each block, as you can see, data B, data C, all those blocks contain the hash of the previous block. And by the way, if I'm using too much like crypto jargon, please stop me and like ask a question, because it's quite difficult to like explain this without using that. So continuing on, a hash is basically a string of characters that is used to mine the previous block. All these data sets are permanently recorded, and every transaction stored on here provides a safe method of tracking transactions without an intermediary. So why does this matter to smart contracts? It might, when you like search up different videos online, it sounds like they're mutually exclusive, but they're not. Bitcoin was designed to be a medium of exchange. It's coded so that you can only store transactions on it, and that's kind of shown in the data set previously. But they provide the groundwork. They provide the groundwork for other data sets to be put on these blockchains, and basically code can then be put on these blockchains as well, not just transactions. So basically, Bitcoin provided a blockchain framework which allows people to use a distributed ledger to record things, which is just a list of transactions. And like I said, you can put other things on these ledgers, such as code. And something like Ethereum uses blockchain fundamentally, but it makes it multidimensional. It uncaps the limits for just transactions, and adds in the ability to code, like I said. So you can store code on a blockchain. It allows for it allows for Y to happen if the input X occurs. And smart contracts are basically if-then functions posted onto a blockchain. So it sounds daunting, but just imagine. Actually, let me just provide an example. So what I'm gonna do is nominate 3 people. One of them has to have their camera on. I'm gonna try to provide an analogy for a smart contract. So who would like to participate in this activity? 3 people. Okay, I see 1. Okay, hey Ari and Rami. Okay, so you guys don't actually all have to have your cameras on, but I'm gonna elect person A, person B, and person C onto. I can't really see your names, but Ari, you can be person A. Rami, you can be person B, and sorry, I can't really see your guys' name, but yeah. And then whoever had their camera on the first time can be person C. So this is gonna sound weird at first. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna show you how this relates to smart contracts. So if person A claps their hands, person B will publicly message person C. So just use the Zoom chat box. Hello. And then person C will wave to the camera. And when I say execute, please do so. Does that make sense to everybody?
Wait, do you want me to like clap my hands actually, or just do a reaction?
In the reaction. So person A, which is Ari, claps their hands. Person B will respond by publicly messaging person C hello, and then person C will wave the hand to the camera. Ready? All right, execute. Nice. So yeah, that might be very confusing, but let me briefly explain how that basically is a smart contract. So like I said before, smart contracts are if-then functions that are public. Everyone can see it happen, just like how you guys all saw it happen. They can happen without a third party. So in a real smart contract, I would not be involved. I wouldn't say person A do this, person B do that. It would just be those 3 people negotiating, or if it was a smart contract, 2 people negotiating on the rules and the activities. They're immutable and distributed, which means once person A, B, C did whatever they did, they cannot be altered. Let's say I recorded this and I post on the blockchain. You can't go back in time and then like react with a different emoji. It's done and it's done. And distributed, meaning that there's no loopholes or discrepancies. If anyone who participated in the activity didn't hold up their end of the bargain, other people in the Zoom would see that, like, and then be like, okay, you didn't do what you did, you didn't do what you agreed on, and then it would be disapproved. But in the actual Ethereum network, the network participants, which are called nodes, are going to be the one who actually invalidate the transaction, so it wouldn't go through. And like I said, this is like a very layman's way to like show what a smart contract is and what it does, but it does provide like what it fundamentally does. So what do we know so far? The first use of blockchain is to store transactions, and Ethereum extended Bitcoin and blockchain technology to not just store transactions, but data or code. And the primary usage of Ethereum is to create and execute smart contracts on the blockchain. And smart contracts are if-then functions that are public and immutable. So you might be wondering, like, why does this matter? Like, this doesn't seem like it could be applicable. Well, you would be mistaken. This can actually revolutionize everything, and it will, in my opinion. So as of right now, right, most contracts, agreements, or transactions are facilitated by a third party, a broker, a cashier, a bank, and maybe not the cashier, but the smart contract eliminates these third party intermediaries and makes agreements more efficient to uphold. So, you know how like when you want to either buy a house or something like that, there's so many things in between you and getting that house that like it's almost a headache just to buy one. It shouldn't be like that, right? It should just be, I buy a house, house is mine now. But right now that doesn't matter. I mean, that's not the case. So smart contracts can actually mediate that. So before we get into like the specific examples, let's look at some broader things that you might have heard in the industry. So you probably heard of NFTs, and like here, I'm not going to be talking about like the profile picture, cats. I personally don't like that. Like that's what NFTs are right now, but that's like the mainstream example. But I'm not talking about that. I'm specifically talking about like the technology. So when you mint an NFT, and I'm sure you heard that phrase, minting an NFT, a smart contract actually executes a token to represent your cat, whatever your NFT is about. So minting an NFT means that you are making a digital file tokenized. What does tokenized mean? You're making a smart contract show that you own something, anything. It doesn't have to be one of these pictures or like a cat, whatever. It could be essentially anything that has data. You tokenize it by, let's say, like you're trading a token, and when tokens are transferred to each other, it shows ownership either by virtue of the wallet. But when you mint an NFT, you're basically saying that you own that data on the blockchain through whatever wallet you have.
I just had one thing, Evan, just on the topic of minting. So the reason it's called minting, and that's just basically it's the creation of the generation of a new NFT, and you can think of it like a currency mint, like when the Federal Reserve or whatever is creating new currency, they call it minting. And you actually have like a mint, which is a physical location where they print new currency. So that's where the term comes from, and they've just kind of used it in this NFT context because a lot of the times tokens are kind of synonymous with these like coins. So that's where the terminology minting NFT comes from, but it's just creating a brand new NFT.
Yeah, and also this isn't an NFT workshop, but just know that like NFTs, trading it, minting it, selling it, buying it, it's all done through smart contracts. So we're gonna move on from that. If there's any questions after about NFTs, we can open the floor. But next thing is DeFi and flash loans. So let's say like you wanted to borrow 10 or $100 million, and you wanted to like trade in some kind of arbitrage between markets. You can totally do that in smart contracts, not in central banking, not in traditional finance, but you can do that here. If you don't want to code it, you can make a contract that borrows, let's say $100 million money from the Ethereum network, but you also have to promise to pay it back within like a minute. And you can, like I said, catch arbitrage or short-term trading with this loan. But the catch with this is that the smart contract, hence it being smart, can self-check itself to see if what you want to do is actually feasible. So I'm not saying go do that. It's pretty technical, but it opens the floor for something called DeFi, and that's probably what you guys have also heard. So what you guys have probably noticed is a lot of these jargonish terms in crypto actually comes back to smart contracts. So DeFi, or decentralized finance, is a way to borrow, lend, swap, store, and send tokens without the presence of a central bank. So when you go to a bank and you want to buy a bond or something like that, right? First of all, I don't know why you would buy a bond, but there's so many different things that you'd have to go through. You have to wait for a transaction to occur. You're probably gonna get taxed, and whatever like market maker is handling your transaction is essentially like kind of taking a cut. But in DeFi, you can lend money or hold any debt-oriented asset, and you wouldn't have to do any of that, because through smart contracts, it self-executes a transaction between you and your borrower. And when you want to take it out, the smart contract just spits back your initial deposit and your interest. And same thing for borrowing. If you wanted to borrow like on Aave or any DeFi platform, you would over collateralize, which just means that you put more money down than whatever much you borrow, and that kind of just prevents people from running off with their loan. But you can over collateralize and borrow assets and then trade with those assets. Now you might be wondering, again, this is not a DeFi workshop, but I think this is kind of important if any of you guys run off and try to do this. But if you wanted to, say you really believe in Ethereum, you think that it's going to go up by 30% this month. Actually, let's be like a little conservative. Let's say like you think it's going to go up like 10% this month, right? Instead of just holding Ethereum, what you can do is to, like I said, over collateralize in Aave or something like that. Put up $1,000 in Ethereum, take out $800 in a stable coin, and then invest that stable coin in something that, like Anchor protocol that gives you like 20% APY. And, once the term of your loan is done, you pay back your UST, you keep the difference, and you take out your Ethereum. And if it went up by whatever you thought it would be, like 10%, then you would have made much more money than you would have if you just held Ethereum. So that's what DeFi essentially allows you to do. This is not, don't do this, okay? I didn't tell you to do that. That's not financial advice, but that's what DeFi allows you to do. And that was definitely not short. And this is not a DeFi workshop, just like how it's not an NFT one, but just like a brief overview. So into some real world use cases. One of them is insurance, as you can see on the slide. And a smart contract can completely cut the middleman out of the equation and will just execute right when the condition is met. So let's say I'm a farmer, right? I'm like bagging hay and tending to my pigs. But then like one day I'm like, yo, what if like the weather's like 50 degrees tomorrow, right? I'm like, okay, if the weather's 50 degrees, then I'm wrecked. Like all my crops are done, right? So what I can do is I can organize an agreement with a company or another individual who is like, I can say, I'll give you $500 now. If the weather is over 50 degrees next week, you give me $2,000. It's like a form of insurance where you're only paying for the insurance. You're not paying for like the fee for getting insurance. And second is real estate. So like I said before, when you want to buy a house, it's an arduous process, right? It's one of the most annoying things in the world. Like, and you have to, like I said, wait for listings, escrow payments. You have to get a cut taken out by, real estate agents, whatever. But you can again eliminate the middleman by, let's say, putting the deed of a house onto the blockchain. And when the ownership of the house is changed, the smart contract self-executes, and instantly person A who wanted to buy the house would get person B's house, and person B would just get the funds instantly. There's no listing, there's none of that. Bang, done, right? So one thing that you guys might be wondering, and it's fair to wonder, is how the hell are these smart contracts like knowing the weather or like knowing information about its placeholders? And that is when oracles come into play. Oracles basically tell and deploy data onto the blockchain that is off-chain. It's a device or entity that connects the blockchain to the real world. And they'll tell the blockchain, like the weather, or anything, right? Anything to do with the real world, they can apply it to the blockchain. Now, the one issue with oracles right now, and I'm sure it'll be resolved, but a very big issue is that, let's say I am an oracle, okay? Like I'm the entity giving blockchain real world information, okay? I could easily be like, okay, so Oliver or someone in the call, right? Let's say you're buying insurance from with a smart contract, right? And you're saying that the terms are, if the weather is over 50 degrees, then I get the insurance. But what if I am the oracle and I say, sorry, man, 49 degrees because I went like this and I tested the weather. Like it's definitely an issue, and the way that people are trying to mitigate like the centralized aspect of an oracle is to make it decentralized. Not completely sure how it's going to look like, but that is going to be like the solution. But all in all, this is what smart contracts can do, and we're just scratching the surface, right? Like this is like not even close to what like the potential for this technology can do for our world. But I've given you an overview of how it relates to blockchains, how it works, what it does, and why it's useful. But now I'm gonna hand off to Christian, who's gonna show you what all of that actually looks like. So I'm gonna stop my screen, and Christian, you can go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. Before we launch into the next portion, does anybody have any comments or questions, thoughts, concerns, queries? Seems like Evan did a outstanding job, 100%, completely uncovered the mysteries of smart contracts. Everyone in this call is now an expert. Oh, there's a question. So essentially, there's no way to tax people for transactions using blockchain. Do you mean tax as in like the government like taxing income? So not necessarily. Like technically, every the majority of blockchain transactions are actually taxable events. And the current state of things is that the governments are pretty behind in terms of regulations and the technology to keep up with this stuff. So there is like some tax evasion that can happen from blockchain transactions if you don't report it, but like you're supposed to. And because this stuff is all like open and transparent and public, once the governments catch up, like it's going to be impossible to like avoid this essentially, because they can go on chain and actually see the record of every single transaction you've ever made. And then it's basically pay your taxes, I guess, is the the advice here, because there is a way to get taxed on it. Yeah, I mean, like you can the blockchains are not anonymous, they're pseudonymous, right? So the idea is that as far as anyone can see, it doesn't, like if my record of account on the blockchain, it doesn't say Christian, it's just like a string of letters and numbers. That's my wallet address. But anytime I interact with a centralized entity like Coinbase, for example, a centralized exchange, now they have a record that this is or at least I sent money from this exchange to that wallet. And then eventually, once the governments kind of catch up in terms of regulation and tech, like they're going to have ways to quickly trace all that. And so you can still, like, even today, outside of blockchain and crypto, people evade taxes, right? But I mean, it's not this like lawless wasteland of cyber criminals that it might seem to be on the surface at all. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Was there any other questions? See, tax rates are different all over the world. It's pretty interesting how politics collide with crypto. Yeah, one of the biggest like problems of the current day, I would say, is like we have this brand new financial system popping up that is borderless and non-sovereign. So there's no like government, one particular government or nation that's in charge of this stuff. So yeah, how does that apply when this stuff isn't actually fixed to any one particular country? Which laws apply? Generally, it's the laws of the United States, because like 90% of global transactions are denominated in the US dollar. So that's why like a lot of these, even if you're like there's companies based in like Malta, the Cayman Islands, and they're actually restricted from doing business with people in the United States because of the more strict laws they have there for securities and things like that. Yeah, do your research, pay your taxes. Like that's just like general advice for life, I would say. Yeah, it's up to you. You do whatever the heck you want, but like, you might get a bill from the tax man down the road, and you can't really say you didn't do it because it's all on chain. Okay, so basically, thank you, Evan. Again, he went over the fundamentals of smart contracts and some use cases. But it's kind of, that's very high level. And I want to go a little deeper. I want to have a bit more of like a hands-on experience. Like, what do smart contracts look like in practice? I don't want to get like super technical. I'm not going to go through like lines of code individually and tell you what they do. But I just want to give you just a different perspective on it. And hopefully you appreciate that. So I'm going to look at two things. I'm going to look at smart contracts in the context of NFTs. And then I'm going to look at smart contracts in the context of DeFi, specifically token swaps and liquidity pools. And if that doesn't make sense, it will shortly. Okay, so this is OpenSea. This is the biggest NFT marketplace by far. Really what OpenSea is, it's a decentralized application, or dApp, which is just an application that sits on top of a blockchain. It's built on Ethereum. And it's what all of these dApps are. They're made up of a bunch of different smart contracts. So remember, smart contracts are these if-then functions. So if something happens, then this will happen, input, output, all automated. And then if you have a more complex application, it's just built up from a bunch of different smart contracts. And I'll show you what that looks like shortly. So OpenSea NFT marketplace, I can buy, sell, trade NFTs. So for example, I can, like, you might have heard of Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's like one of the more popular NFT collections. And just to comment, Evan did say he wasn't a big fan of the art-based NFTs. So this is just one application of NFTs, which is profile pictures, digital artwork represented as a token on the blockchain. But there's tons of other applications in business, in law, in supply chain, in entertainment. You can have NFT tickets. Evan talked about NFT real estate. So there's tons of applications, but the most popular one, and the one that has real use cases today, is this digital artwork. So these are the Bored Apes. There's 10,000 Bored Apes. They're all each one of them is an NFT, so it's a unique digital token, and each one of them is provably unique and also visually unique. You can see if I was to go through all 10,000 of these Bored Apes, not a single one would look the same. They all have a different like combination of traits. So let's like click on one of these NFTs and we can dive a bit into what's going on here. So I can actually find the contract for this NFT somewhere. Yeah, okay, so here, if I go to details, I can actually see the contract address. And if I click on that, it's going to take me to this website called Etherscan. Now, Etherscan is a blockchain explorer. And Explorer, kind of like Internet Explorer, you can search for in this big database of all these different websites. For the Blockchain Explorer, I can search for any blockchain address or transaction. So let's go to the home page quickly before I dive into the Bored Apes. So anytime I want to like kind of uncover some more information about the blockchain, this is just an application that lets me do that more easily. I don't have to know any code to actually dig into the blockchain. So I can see like every block. So again, blocks are just groups of transactions. I can see which miner like verified or validated the transaction. I can see when the block happened. If I click on the block, I can actually see like all the transactions in the block. I can see on this side of the screen all of the recent transactions and from which address it was sent and to which address it was delivered. And I can go into an individual wallet. So this is a transaction, and these are wallet addresses here. They all start with 0x. That's just the standard for Ethereum. So I can click on this, and now this is taking me to a specific address on the blockchain. So this is a public key wallet address. Just somebody owns this wallet, and I can see like how much. I can see what tokens they own and how much. So this person actually has $2 million in their wallet, so that's pretty sweet. And you can just see all of the transactions that they've done. Anyway, so that's kind of what you can do with the Blockchain Explorer. There's a lot more. You can go way deeper. I'm not going to get too much into it, but play around if you're interested. There's a lot of like YouTube videos that kind of explain more about what all this stuff is. But what I want to show you is specifically the Bored Apes. So again, remember, I went to Bored Apes and I clicked on the contract address. So this is a smart contract and it takes me here. So something that I think we did not touch upon is the fact that smart contracts actually have their own crypto wallets. So a particular smart contract it has its own address, and it actually has the ability to store, send, and receive digital tokens. So this is the contract for the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I can actually go here. I can click on the contract and I can actually view the contract. So this is basically what it is. This is the smart contract for Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT collection. And what this does, it basically specifies the rules of like how these NFTs are created and how they can be transferred. So everything in here is it's immutable. It can't be changed. It's on the blockchain, but this smart contract can be interacted with. Right now, all 10,000 of these Bored Apes have been like minted. We talked about minting before, but before that, when the contract was first deployed or like published to Ethereum, there was no Bored Apes, and individual users had to interact with the smart contract and call what's called the mint function on the contract. And then in the contract, it's going to specify how that mint function works. For example, remember I said that there's 10,000 Bored Apes and they're all provably unique, and that is all specified in the contract here. So if I'm not going to go into the code, but just trust me that in this contract, it specifies those rules. And that way I can actually verify that all 10,000 of these tokens are unique, because that's specified by the operations that are written in the code. And also I can prove that, for example, a certain trait, like this guy's got his eyeballs come out of his socket, and that has like a 4% chance. So 4% of those 10,000 Bored Apes, so 400 Bored Apes have these crazy eyes. And then that I can like verify that is the case based on the code here. Also, something else that NFTs have is automated royalties, which is a really big thing for artists. This NFT boom, a lot of it is to do with like kind of empowering artists to have a wider reach, and also to have more control over their royalties, because in this contract, it's going to specify, I don't know exactly what the payout is for the Bored Ape royalty, but say it's 5%. So every time one person trades a Bored Ape to another person, they pay a 5% royalty that automatically gets distributed to the creators of Bored Ape. So that's Yuga Labs. But if I was to create my own NFT, I could specify I want like 5% royalties. And anytime anybody traded my NFT, 5% of that transaction price would come back to me. And that's all automated via this smart contract right here. You can also go, if you know more about how to read this code, you can actually go into this and check if it's a scam. Like if the code is doing what it's supposed to do, or if there's like some malicious code that's going to allow the creator of the contract to steal your money or alter the NFT after the fact, which is not something that's supposed to be able to happen, assuming the code is written in the way it's intended. But there are a lot of instances of, malicious actors in the crypto space who just want to rob you, right? So it takes a lot of knowledge to go into a contract and read it and make sure that it's not going to rob you. So a lot of the time you have to trust other people who are like that verifying it. There's like smart contract auditing companies that will go in and read a contract and kind of put their stamp of approval on it to say, yes, this is not a scam. So that's again, this is an instance of a smart contract for NFTs. There's a few more things we can have here on Etherscan. Like I can actually look at the functions in the contract, so read and write. So if I go to read contract, I can see these different functions here. And for example, I'm going to balance of, and I can actually call to the contract and like get information from it. So for example, I can see how many for a particular address or owner, how many Bored Apes they hold in their wallet. So let me just go to this guy. So this Bored Ape is owned by this wallet address. And remember, because this is all public, I can just search this for anybody. So I'm still on OpenSea, but if I click on this wallet address, I can see all the NFTs owned by this wallet, right? That's a pretty good one, actually. It's 23 Ethereum bid on that Azuki. So good for that guy. But I can copy his address and I can put it into Etherscan here. And if I click query, now I see like 1. So I can tell that this address has 1 Bored Ape, right? So this is just a way to kind of interact more directly with these smart contracts. I can also do write, and this is actually potentially going to change the state of the blockchain, right? So this is going to ask me to connect to my wallet. Click connect to Web3. It's going to get me to like connect to a MetaMask wallet. And then I can actually directly interact with the smart contract and the Ethereum blockchain via Etherscan. So for example, like here's the mint function. This won't work anymore, but before all the apes were minted or created, I could have, rather than using like the Bored Ape website, I could have come directly to Etherscan and I can input the amount I want to pay and how many I want to mint. And if I click write, it's actually going to send that transaction to the blockchain. I can do transfers. So on OpenSea, if I own an NFT, I can like, you can't see it here because I don't own this one, but I can actually like send it to another address or I can put it up for sale. But here I can directly transfer it from one address to another. And I would put in the token ID. So the token ID is like in this case of this Bored Ape here. Hang on. Yeah, so here it is 45465. So there's 10,000 Bored Apes and everyone has like a number. And so this guy's 5465. So what I could do if I own that ape, I could put 5465 here. I could put my address and the address I want to send it to. And then because it's a smart contract, remember it's doing like an if then check. So it's like if it is true that I am the owner, if this address here is the owner of this token, then it will send that token to this address. So these are the functions that are in the code. And rather than looking at it in this format where like it's kind of hard to see what's going on if you're not like an expert, I can actually look at the individual functions and interact with them here. Okay, so that's kind of a dive into NFTs in smart contracts. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to add? I don't know if anyone's like chatting. I actually can't see my chat, but I'm going to assume that nobody has any questions, which either means I've done a phenomenal job or a terrible job. I'm not sure which one, but I'll go with the first. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was smart contracts in the context of DeFi, specifically token swaps and liquidity pools. Actually, maybe it's helpful here. I have this slide deck that I made for a different event, but maybe it's helpful to quickly talk about this concept. So I'm going to show you under the hood a little bit how automated market makers and decentralized exchanges work. And that is all about these liquidity pools. So maybe this little diagram beforehand can help you understand that, I hope. I think it's like a little more intuitive to see it this way. So what is a liquidity pool in DeFi? Basically, it's a pool of 2 different tokens. We'll call them token A and token B. And there's always going to be an equal dollar amount of each token in the pool. So if token A is $1 and token B is $5, the ratio is 5 to 1. And that's always going to be the case. If the ratio of tokens in the pool changes from like the market price, you're going to have these arbitrageurs who come in and make trades to restore that balance because it's profitable for them to do so. So the liquidity pool is actually controlled by these smart contracts. And I think like a way that makes it a little easier to understand, I like to think there's like this little robot that you're kind of transacting with, and the robot has his own crypto wallet. Because remember I was saying these smart contracts can hold their own, they can hold crypto, they can send and receive crypto. So that's how we're able to have this liquidity pool. It's stored in this smart contract, but look at it as though it's a little robot who has his own crypto wallet and he's holding this liquidity pool. So and that's me on the left side there with my crypto wallet. And if I want to swap, say I have token A, I want to swap it for token B, I can come to this liquidity pool, pay a small transaction fee, and I'll trade A for B, right? Or vice versa. And all of that is automated via the smart contract. On the other side, how do these tokens get in the liquidity pool in the first place? So because there's no third parties, no middlemen, everything here is done by the users of the platform. So we have these liquidity providers, and essentially they will supply an equal portion of token A and token B to the pool. That's how the tokens get into the liquidity pool, and they send it to this smart contract. And then anytime the users swap tokens, that transaction fee gets sent to the liquidity providers as a reward for putting their tokens into the pool. And again, all of these functions on the right are facilitated by the smart contracts. And then one more thing is LP tokens. So basically, if you're a liquidity provider and you put your tokens into the liquidity pool, what you'll receive are called LP tokens. And these are just like kind of shares of the pool, representing your ownership of your assets in the pool, also a receipt that will help distribute the transaction fees to you, and also a receipt for when you want to get your tokens out of the pool. You send the LP token back, and then you receive your assets. And all of this is facilitated by smart contracts. And remember, it's if then. So if I send token A, I will get this many token Bs back. If I supply liquidity A and B, I will receive these LP tokens. If I hold these LP tokens, then I receive the transaction fees from the pool. If I return my LP tokens to the pool, I will get my A and B tokens that I put in. So it's all the if then happening here, governing all of these different things. This is basically what allows for like decentralized exchanges to operate. This is this very recent like innovation that cuts out middlemen from finance. So hopefully looking at it in this diagram makes a bit of sense. And now I want to actually go into like what this looks like in practice.
Hey Christian, there's a question in chat.
Yeah, I see a bunch of questions in chat here. Is this one? Who are you paying that small transfer fee to? Yeah. Okay. So you're paying the fee to the liquidity providers, right? So the smart contract is not actually getting anything here. It's peer-to-peer. The smart contract is just facilitating it. So I have pay transaction fee here and earn transaction fee here, right? So if I want to use the liquidity pool, I'll pay a fee to do so, and the fees go directly to the liquidity providers as a reward for providing liquidity. And yeah, who are liquidity providers? Anybody. Yeah, it can be you, it can be me. That's the beauty. All of these are just users of the protocol. It can be anyone. That's why it's decentralized finance. Anyone in the world can participate in this. Anyone can use these pools to swap tokens. Anybody can provide liquidity to earn rewards from this pool. And there's no bank, there's no government, there's nobody who's like dictating who's allowed to use this. It's open for everybody in the world. If you have an internet connection, you can swap tokens, you can be a liquidity provider. Okay. So what does that look like? Actually, so this is Uniswap. This is the most popular decentralized exchange on Ethereum. It uses that automated market maker model I was just showing you. And basically, I can swap Ethereum for any token. So let's say like wrapped Bitcoin. And if I was to send like one Ethereum would get me 0.075 Bitcoin. And this is a liquidity pool, right? So in this case, token A is Ethereum and token B is Bitcoin. And I can swap between these tokens, and I will pay that small transaction fee to do so, which will then get paid out to the liquidity providers. And I can pick a different token, right? I can pick USDT, and I will get this many USDT for Ethereum. And this is a different liquidity pool governed by a different set of smart contracts. And then that's how I want, if I wanted to swap tokens, that's where I go. There's also the pools. So if I go to top pools, I can see all of the pools on Uniswap. So for example, we were just looking at like ETH USDT, and here's the pool. and I can add liquidity, which would mean I would add an equal amount of Ethereum and USDT to the pool. But I can also look at the smart contract for this, which is pretty interesting. So actually, let's go to here. So this also takes me to Etherscan. And this is the specific contract. So this is the smart contract here. You can see the balance here, $132 million. That's how much is in the pool. And this is specifically for the Ethereum and USDT liquidity pool. So I can look at this contract. And what you see here, notice how file 1 of 31. So there's 31 different individual smart contracts that are all working together to facilitate the actions in this pool. So basically there's 31 smart contracts here, specifically for this one pool, right? That I'm talking about, the USDT and Ether pool. There is also like a general Uniswap smart contract, and there's like 60 something files. And that dictates like all the actions of the Uniswap decentralized application. And then you can see here all these import functions. So basically I'm importing these from the main Uniswap smart contract, because I'm using a lot of the same code, but the thing is, it's a specific instance of the code for this one liquidity pool that I'm looking at. And every liquidity pool is going to have a different instance of this code. So remember, this is Uniswap v3 USDT. So this is the ETH USDT pool. But if I was to go back to Uniswap and pick a different pool, like I don't know, let's do like wrap Bitcoin USDC. Same thing. I can look this up on Etherscan. And you can see the balance in the liquidity pool. This is how much money is in there, $100 million. And then I can look at the contract, and you see again, there's like 31, but this is slightly different, right? This is Uniswap v3 wrap Bitcoin USDC. So it's very similar, but it's just a different instance because we're using different tokens. So we have to have a unique smart contract. And like, I couldn't tell you everything that's going on in all of these contracts, but all it is just a bunch of those if-then functions, all logic-based, automating transactions happening on the blockchain. And if we build a bunch of these smart contracts on top of each other, we can build a decentralized application such as Uniswap that allows us to swap tokens in a decentralized manner. Or also we can do things like NFTs on OpenSea. We can create new NFTs. We can determine the rules for how those NFTs are traded, for royalties and things like that. So I think that's generally the things I wanted to show you. Anybody have any like questions or anything else anything else wanted me to like talk about or show you? Happy to discuss. Evan, Alex, is there anything you wanted to like add or anything you think I missed?
Yeah, we have POAPs we want to give out to people. So if you guys want a POAP, which would be like an NFT for attending this event, just put your email into the chat and we'll send them out to you guys at a later date.
Yeah, and this is like the time to just open the floor. Discussion about anything doesn't even have to like be about the content discussed today. Anything about crypto. If you have any concerns about market, whatever, just like open a mic, and yeah, this is the end of the workshop, so feel free.
I have a question. When a friend or family member or whatever asks you, what is this crypto thing? Or what is Web3? What is blockchain? What do you guys say? Because like, where do you even guess? Where do you even?
I think you start with what Web 2 is and what 1 is and the limitations of that, and then explain how like Web 3 exceeds those limitations, with like central banking and like regulation, censorship, and just like show how those things are like mitigated by Web 3. And if you want to get technical with it, then you can start explaining like smart contracts if you can do like your grandparents. I don't know if you want to do that, right? But like, yeah, man.
I just tell them it's the future. Do your own research. No, so I would say like it is the future. Like I think that. So I would start with like essentially it's like a record keeping technology that lets us do things cheaper and faster. And then I would talk about like historically we rely on third parties to keep records. So that's banks, that's governments, whatever. And historically, those third parties have done a very terrible job of keeping our records safe and having our best interest in mind. So what blockchain does is it is a new way to keep records where no single party has control of those records. And then you don't have to worry about them being malicious or not having your best interest in mind. And it's just, it's power back to the people, essentially. And we can do a lot of cool new things that we couldn't do before, like decentralized finance, like these non-fungible tokens that give us this verifiable proof of ownership of things. So yeah, I like to inspire them, you know.
I'm going to use that explanation.
What is a POAP? Okay, yeah. So basically, a POAP is an NFT that is typically distributed to attendees of an event. And now what you have is a token on the blockchain that, as long as it's in your wallet, it confirms that you attended this event. And so, for example, the use cases of that are, say, you can get a collection of all the POAPs from all the UBC Blockchain Club events. And now say I have in my wallet, I have 5 POAPs, NFTs that are related to UBC Blockchain Club. And now I want to like go apply for UBC Blockchain Club. And I can actually show them my crypto wallet. Look, I came to all your events. Here's the proof that I came to all your events. And that might be a benefit in the future if you're applying for a job or for a specific position. It's just a way to prove to people that you've done certain things. So yeah, if you have not already, yeah, send your emails, I guess, to Alex, DM them to Alex, and then you'll get a POAP. I can show you quickly what it looks like. So you can see I've got like 3 POAPs. One, I went to the Covalent Christmas party last year, so you can see there's my little POAP. It's animated, pretty cool. I went to a Webcouver event last month, so I got this POAP there. And then this is from the UBC Blockchain Club Industry Night. So I have that. So basically my wallet has evidence that I attended the UBC Blockchain Club Industry Night. And like, if you just think about the potential of that, it's pretty cool because I have a verifiable record of my attendance at an event. And think of the applications, you know, again, talking about, I can, for like, I have this Covalent one, right? And Covalent has like workshops and stuff, and they will, they'll issue you POAPs for attending their workshops. And say in the future, I want to go apply for a job at Covalent, and you know, it's a close race between me and someone else. We both have really good qualifications, but I'm like, look, check my Ethereum wallet. I've actually attended 5 of your workshops this year. And like, so I'm like, I'm invested in your company. I've learned things from you. And that might be kind of putting me one step above other applicants for the process. You can attach a wallet link to a resume, basically. You could, yeah, for sure. I'd like to think that, you know, this will be a bit more like a bit easier in the future when this is more like of a commonplace thing. Nothing's stopping you from doing that. If you buy an NFT, is it viewable in our MetaMask wallet like cryptocurrency, so you can only see it from the place you have bought it? So it's going to depend on the NFT. Typically, you can definitely see it like on OpenSea. It's probably the biggest place you can find it. MetaMask, as far as I know, the browser extension, you can't see NFTs, but the mobile app of MetaMask, you can see your NFTs in there. And it's going to, yeah, here, I mean, I can show you something that kind of relates to that. Okay, so I can go to LooksRare, which is another NFT marketplace. And I can connect my wallet. Yeah, exactly. So Phantom Wallet is a little nicer. It's easier to see your NFTs. But let me show you this kind of goes well with your point, which is this is a pretty big problem. So here are my NFTs when I open them up on LooksRare. If I was on OpenSea, I could see all of these NFTs. But look at this. You see like OpenSea shared storefront, OpenSea shared storefront. So like, because these NFTs, all the token has is like a link to the image on OpenSea. So if I try to open this up outside of OpenSea, I'm going to get this like error here. Like it's not going to actually show the image. So I still have the NFT. It's still coming up in my wallet, but this website doesn't support that image. It doesn't have that image on its server. So that's kind of a problem with NFTs, because if the metadata of the image is not on chain, you're relying on these other websites to host the image. And if the website ever goes down, all you have is a token that doesn't actually point to anything, right?
If there's no other lingering questions, Christian, I think we can end it here.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Thanks for everybody coming out. Special POAPs presenters. Yeah, man, I'm down. For sure. If you want to make a special POAP, but definitely down. Wait, who's still in here? If any of you are not in the Blockaday Discord, I'm just going to throw the link in here. So we've got a bit of a Discord community that we are trying to build. And we're just like to share our events on there. We try to do like one event every week. This week we're like collabing with UBC Blockchain Club. Other weeks we collab with like Ethereum Vancouver. Sometimes they're in-person events, sometimes they're online, but we have most of our updates there on the Discord. If you want to join it, yeah, join UBC Blockchain Club too. Join both, hang out. Love to be there, chat with you, ask questions. We host content, post events. Yeah, get engaged. And thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out, guys.